to our BBC News School report from Dunfermline High School. My name is Adam.
And my name is Niamh.
And my name is Ryan.
And we are the Press Pack Gang. Our first report will focus on prisons in our society, with the difference between what people think and what prisons are really like.
Our second report will focus on child literacy and if children are reading enough today.
I am Adam, and my report is about prisons in the United Kingdom and another developed country. What do you think about when prison springs to mind? I think about dark, rotting structures like those from that film Pirates of the Caribbean, or that television programme Bound Up Abroad. For me, this is what all prisons are really like. Apparently not. Prisons in developed countries of the modern world appear, from the outside at least, to be places of hospitality and luxury for its inmates. However, this also seems to be the attitude from those from the inside as well. In the United Kingdom, prisons have become so comfortable that offenders would rather stay inside than face the outside world, thus ignoring opportunities for them to escape. Prisoners receive a wage with cash bonuses for being in prison, with a Sky television and free telephones in every cell, along with breakfast in bed being a regular occurrence. In Norway, Halden is a high-security prison described as the most humane in the world, holding murderers, rapists and paedophiles at a construction cost of £138 million. Every cell has an ensuite bathroom, fridges and cupboards, with 1 year per prisoner costing the state roughly £116,000 compared with £45,000 in the UK. There are also more prison officers than offenders, with members of the security guard chorus recently competing on the country's version of American Idol, with hopes to produce the prison's first musical starring inmates in the near future. This stems from their policy focusing on rehabilitation more than punishment. If more money was spent on education, healthcare and the elderly, whom have worked all their lives, I believe we would have less problems with pensions or money in the public sector. Many prisons in this country are overcrowded, with small amounts of guards struggling to maintain control. So why are unemployment levels still high when more people could be trained as prison wardens or officers? Prison today appears to be a great place to stay, with service as good as the best hotels around. However, it is very important that we research both sides of the story. I met with HMP Edinburgh officer Andy Brown to hear what he had to say. How and why did you become a prison officer?
I became a prison officer in 1989, and the reason why at the time I applied to be both a fireman and a prison officer, but at the time the opportunity to become a prison officer became available before a fire service, so that's the way I went.
What do you do and what do you think of your work?
What I do in the job is everything, Adam. You look after people and all the problems. You make sure that they run the routine every day, all day, on time. The time constraints on the regime, as we call it, are quite tight. Every day is a different day. The routine's the same, but you never actually get 2 days exactly the same. And it's interesting. It's interesting work.
Do you think prison should be a place of punishment or rehabilitation?
I think prison should be a place for both. The punishment part for the prisoner is that he's deprived of his liberty. The rehabilitation part is, I believe, yes, should happen, because you should give people the extent to change their lives or whatever. But the biggest thing I find is that the prisoners themselves have got to make that choice. We can't force rehabilitation on them. They've got to make the decision that they want to change their life.
Do you believe our prison system works?
I believe the system works, yes. Very effectively in a lot of circumstances, because it tended to be prisoners went out the door with little support inside or outside. Whereas now they've got a lot more support for the community, so things are actually sorted for them before they get out rather than hitting the street.
Many believe that prisons in our country are too forgiving on its inmates. Do you believe that the public's perception of prison is accurate?
The public's perception of prisons is probably a bit misguided, because if you were to take the public and put them in the prison for maybe a couple of months and then realise how prisons work and operate, it is a harsh environment at times.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Adam.
I also conducted a poll with 100 pupils and teachers from Dunfermline High School to find out what the people's idea of a typical prison looked like. They were shown 4 images of the facilities inside Halden High Security Prison, Norway, and asked in which building did they think they would be located. The results proved very interesting, with the top 3 options being a library at 17, high school at 15, and university at 13. Out of everyone I asked, only 3 people said prison, which ultimately proves that people's perception of prisons are not at all what they actually are.
Thank you, Adam. Welcome. Today my colleague Ryan and I will be discussing the issue of child literacy today. We will be talking about what children are reading nowadays and how they view reading. Later in the broadcast, we will also be getting another opinion from our school librarian.
Recently, we issued a poll asking kids 2 questions regarding books. The first question we asked them was had they read any of the Harry Potter books. We got an overwhelming result of 65 out of the 100. However, when we asked them the question had they read a classic book, one by Charles Dickens, either of the Bronte sisters or Jane Austen, sadly our response to this question was not as promising.
Only 23 out of the 100 people had read one of their books. And even more saddening was the fact that when asked why they had read them, most of them replied that they had read books because of school. We were beginning to wonder, had children of this era forgotten about books written before they were born?
The Harry Potter series today is the highest selling series. But why? What attracts people to a series like this, over old books like Wuthering Heights or Great Expectations? That is what we wanted to find out. So Niamh went out and asked a few people about their favourite books and why.
What is your favourite genre of book?
I prefer not reading, I prefer movies.
And why is that?
Why waste time reading a book for months when you could watch a movie for a couple of hours?
What do you enjoy reading about?
I enjoy reading crime books
And why is that?
because I like reading about criminals and their psychology. It's very interesting to know what they're thinking at the time of the crime.
Who's your favourite author?
Michael McGurgle.
And why is that?
I find his writing really interesting and entertaining.
Thank you, Niamh. So that is that. We can now see what children are reading and why. But does that also reflect what adults reckon we want? Niamh visited our school library to ask our librarian a few questions about her view on it.
So how long have you been a librarian?
A school librarian over 12 years, but I've also worked in a university library at Abertay, Dundee, and a police college library. That was my first job at the police college in Kincardine. But yeah, over 12 years, maybe nearer 15.
In recent years, have you noticed a decline in those using the library?
The library is used for many different things now. Of course, we have computers now, and certainly the laptops are used in here every period. Really popular at lunchtime for a social space. We also get used for meetings after school, so it, obviously, as well as having the books that still go out, it's multi-purpose, flexible.
Which type of books are most popular for people our age?
The Hunger Games, being specific, are definitely popular. They're still going out on loan. Wimpy Kid books, books that have had films out just makes them so much more popular, and not everybody, but a lot of people come and ask for the same books, and it's the ones that have films. So definitely having the books in the film media makes them way more popular.
Which authors are most popular?
Authors, well, Suzanne Collins, she's the Hunger Games author. Jacqueline Wilson, she's always going out. Michael Murpargo, they love Michael Murpargo. Darren Shan, I'm trying to think of the books I see all the time. Jeff Kinney, who does the Wimpy Kid. Everyone's got their own taste, that they're quite different books, but certainly fantasy genre are quite popular.
Do you feel the classic books are being taken out less and less?
Depends what you mean by classic. Obviously The Hobbit, would you class Tolkien as, I don't know if you'd class him as classic or modern day classic, I'm not sure when his books originally came out, but certainly, again, because of films, the likes of The Hobbit go out. Traditional classics like, your Bronte and Jane Austen, I don't see them go out as much. I do have them in the adult fiction, and occasionally people will take books like that out, but yeah, definitely more modern film, teen fiction books are certainly the way that things are going.
What are your favourite books?
My favourite, well, I've not read The Hunger Games yet. It's to be read next week, hopefully, when I'm off. My favourite books, I enjoyed the book Wonder. I read that recently by, is it R.C. Palacio? Try to think of the author's name. But the boy going to school for the first time, the facial disfigurement. I enjoyed that because it had really short chapters and it was like 3 pages and you were done with a chapter, so it kind of made you want to read more because it was quite short. I quite liked how that was laid out. I enjoyed My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult, and again, that was a film. And trying to think what I've read recently. I read a lot of teen fiction. I don't tend to read the adult books. I started to read Game of Thrones last year. It's on my Kindle, and I'm still about 10% in book 1. I plan to read Game of Thrones. It might take me forever.
Has your taste changed since you were a child?
Yeah, probably. I mean, obviously working in a library, I see the books that go out all the time and I think I'd like to read that. And there's so many books I'd love to read. I love my films though, and I love the Sky Planner, so they kind of take my time up more than the book should. I'm trying to think what I read when I was a child. Trying to think now. Things, the way had like the famous 5 and Enid Blyton books. Yeah, that was kind of, so definitely reading different books now. I don't think I've even got any Enid Blyton in the library anymore.
And that shows it. Even the adults are clear to see that children are more attracted to modern books by modern authors. But does that mean that old classic books are dying out? No, because it is still considered sophisticated to have read these classics.
When we asked adults the same question as we asked the children, the results were a bit different.
78 out of the 100 admitted to having read one of the Harry Potter books, and 67 of the 100 said they had read a book by the Bronte sisters, Dickinson or Jane Austen. Those numbers are a tiny bit more promising, and I think it reflects what we all know. Even if children are not reading them, as they grow up they are. It does not matter if it's for school, college or just to sound posh. As long as they are reading, it is fine.
And the fact is, there is still so much drama about books, which is great. A classic example is the current trend of turning movies into books. The Hunger Games, Harry Potter, Twilight, all of these books are being read.
And as people grow up, they will transition into the classics. So soon we will all be reading Wuthering Heights, Emma and David Copperfield.
Thank you for listening to our view on child literacy in prisons from Adam, Ryan and I. That is all from Dunfermline High News.
Goodbye.